Right at it. Right at it. Oh, he's done it again. Just as he did at the John Deere for his first win.
Welcome to episode 161 of the Go Get That podcast. You're getting two of us tonight. You're getting Dan. You're getting Jordan. You're not getting Bob. Bob is on a flight home from, I want to say DC up to his home in New England. So no Bob tonight. He's just going to too many events, doesn't have time to do these recaps on Monday. But we got you covered. Happy to be here. Happy to recap the United States Open, where I would say, lived up to expectations. One player finished under par for the week. For the people that love Carnage, you got it. And the only reason he finished under par is because he made the longest putt by a player all week. That is JJ Spaun, the US Open champion. Awesome stuff. Personally, I was really worried it was going to be, Bryson and Scotty versus the field, and it was really the exact opposite of that on Sunday. Even if Scotty had a chance, Bryson didn't even make the cut, and he had a outside chance, but he wasn't, in typical Scotty Scheffler fashion, leading the golf tournament, the big favorite to win over the weekend. So yeah, good tournament. Happy to be here chatting it up with Dan. And how you doing, Dan?
I'm doing very well. I appreciate being here. It was a great tournament. Really, really fun tournament. I remember having the conversations about Scheffler, Bryson versus the field, and um, I had to dip away for an hour from the coverage late Sunday, and it just totally flipped. I mean, it was Burns and Scott, and then there were five guys tied at one over with four or five left to play. And that was a really, really awesome major championship. Uh, I think we've had, I mean, that's two of the better majors that I can remember this year, both being this open and then obviously the Masters with Rory getting the slam. So, and Scheffler's PGA was pretty dull, to be honest. But great week. Congrats to JJ Spaun. Deserved win. I thought he played it like a major champion. He was there at the Players. I thought he deserved to win that too. So, I think if he had won the Players, he probably didn't win this week. But the way he's played this season in these big events, he deserved one of them. And I think it's fitting for him to get it, fitting for him to cap it in the way that he did too. Uh, Tie ball game, 17-18, and steps up, rips a drive right at it, two putt, and then obviously pours in the 65 footer on 18. For I mean, one of the great moments in uh major championships, right? So it would have been, if that was for the win to win by one, I think it would have been unreal. And one of the greatest moments in major championship history, but I had to kind of pause myself there for a moment because he just needed the two putt. But certainly the capping, and we got a great reaction because of that, and I think that was really cool. So excited to kind of dig into what we thought about this week. Curious to hear what Bob has to say tomorrow on the Travelers Pod. And yeah, I mean, I don't know where you want to start. I gave our Spawn a little deserved airtime. He'll be in Bethpage. Um, and we probably talk a little Ryder Cup here as well because it's starting to take a little bit of shape. Um, what it means for the guys that are kind of on the outside looking in. But uh, yeah, I mean, did anything on Sundays like surprise you or stick out? I feel like Burns and Scott coming back to the pack was, in hindsight, not totally unexpected, but it sort of felt like one of those guys was primed to go get a major.
Yeah, no, just wrapping up on Spawn, I guess. Props to him. I've kind of been on the Spawn train for Bethpage even before this week. I've kind of liked what he's done this year. Seems like a good guy, and he's completely booked his ticket now, so props to him. Yeah, and then getting into Scott and Burns, you probably actually watched more of Sunday down the stretch than I did. I was kind of out of the house after Jordan finished, keeping tabs on my phone a little bit, but not actually having the eyes glued to the screen. But I kind of expected Burns to crumble. I I I saw the way he played the playoff at the Canadian Open, and it's just like the way he played it, he kind of played not to lose there, and that's not typically how you got to play to win a major. I mean, the US Open, maybe playing not to lose isn't always a bad idea just because, the golf course is so hard, but I think when you play not to lose at the Canadian Open, it's just a lack of killer instinct to go take it. And I was kind of expecting him to blow up over the weekend, one of the 2 days, and he held it together on Saturday, played well, and then obviously Sunday came and did not go well, especially when the weather hit and the had a little rule situation that he didn't get the benefit of the doubt on. But expected him to blow up. Adam Scott was probably the guy I was rooting for most personally. Sucked to not see him get it done, especially as a Jordan, as big Jordan fans. Jordan's mentioned numerously that Adam Scott was like his one of his favorites growing up. Plus, he's just a really good dude. He was on Grant Horvat's channel, and he played with Grant, and he just seemed such a mellow dude, so down to earth, and a legend of the game, fellow Masters champion like Jordan. So I was rooting for him. Was tough to see what happened to him on Sunday, and then yeah, I mean you saw it. You watched more than me probably, Dan. It just all hell seemed to break loose on Sunday, and
Yeah.
JJ was off super slow, but clutched up when it mattered most and
Yeah, well, he
beat
got
Oakmont.
absolutely boned on two.
Yeah.
That hitting the stick and having it roll 70 yards from the pin is absurd. Um, and then yeah, just went and took it. I mean, I think you could say the same about Bob McIntyre. 68 on Sunday was one of the few low rounds up there that kind of started with the chance. Obviously, Rahm and McIlroy both kind of backdoored their way into a solid finish at a major with the 67, but none of those guys had a chance to win the golf tournament at the start of the day. But everybody else just kind of hung around, and then when it was time to go get it, faltered. And they're tough holes, right? I mean, 17 played relatively easy all week, but if you get it in the wrong spot, like Hatton did, kind of on the downslope, thick lie, it's easy to just chunk it into the more thick rough in front of you.
Jordan did it.
Um, yeah. Burns just didn't have it. The no drop on 15 is unfortunate for sure. Um, but he was losing it kind of well before then. Adam Scott's sort of the same thing, and Hovland grinded it out, man, but he did not have his stuff either. So it was kind of primed for the taking. Spaun made putts down the stretch. I think Oakmont played the way we had hoped difficulty wise, but also the idea that you have to have overwhelming distance here, I think is maybe um it's not true, but I think everybody now just hits the ball pretty far. And a guy like Spawn who's above average distance, above average accuracy, hitting out of the fairway was important. And you could see it, especially down the stretch, 17, 18, he played the same baby cut off the tee. 17 was right at the stick, 18 was right down the middle. Um, and guys like Hatton, Hovland coming down the stretch, missing the fairways, you're not going to be able to score from there. So, really, really impressive stuff from Spawn and good stuff for out of Oakmont as well. I thought it put up a good showing this week. I think it lived up to the hype. Would have been cool if it was firm. But I guess we'll have to wait for a little while to see it at its peak. Um, but yeah, I mean, but the Masters was cool because Rory won and it was kind of tight down the stretch, but only really because Rory was bottling it. I felt like this was obviously Burns and Scott you probably chalk those up to a bottle, but having that many guys there to have an opportunity to go take it, I think is something that we haven't seen at a lot of major championships recently. So I thoroughly enjoyed that aspect of it. And it feels weird to move on to Cromwell like right after that. Like it's just a big difference. But really proper US Open. And a lot of fun for sure.
The difference, going to Cromwell, I think the players are going to love after getting their teeth kicked in at Oakmont, and then most of the dudes played before Oakmont at Memorial, and it's just like, give me some reprieve, and you'll get a little bit this week. It's been pretty wet here in the Northeast, and we'll probably get into it in the Travelers preview, so scoring will probably be pretty low. But yeah, you mentioned so many dudes having a chance to win yesterday, and it's just like Bob McIntyre was the clubhouse leader, and I don't think anyone was talking about him Saturday night.
No.
Um, it's cool, and he was having fun out there. He wanted the conditions as a Scotsman to get as bad as possible, and it's just because that's is what he plays with. That's what he's used to playing, and at home, which was pretty cool. And yeah, the golf course was awesome. I think Oakmont has I think even before this week, I know it hasn't been played since 2016, but it's probably my favorite US Open venue. I just like the way the golf course plays. I've always been a fan of, the tough, typical, Shinnecock Hills, Oakmont, Wingfoot, I like the long rough. And if we get into Spieth here momentarily, he paid the price playing from the long rough all week
Yeah.
long, pretty much. Um, and it should be a penalty. I know a lot of people don't like it because you can't be creative out of it, but you hit the fairway and your life's a whole lot easier. And, I appreciate Augusta because you can get creative, but there's nothing wrong with having rough like this week, in my opinion, that you take your shot penalty, you take your half shot penalty. And I think Oakmont, even the bunkers this week, shout out to Gil Hands and what he did with the restoration at Oakmont. Um, Leading into this US Open, I mean, the bunkers were nightmarish. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of these guys, they see, 4 or 5 inch rough and they're like, please get in the bunker, please get in the bunker. Not this week because the lips are just so high and you're in the bunker is kind of the same penalty as the rough, sometimes even worse because the rough you had nothing to get it over with. It was just thick. The lips of these bunkers were brutal. Jordan was pitching out or not advancing it too far. And I guess getting into Jordan, if you wanted to go down, if you're ready to go down
Oh
that
yeah.
alley,
We can go down that bridge, that
it's
road.
it was a +8 T23. I'll take it. The more it's always I hate having knee-jerk reactions right after we get finished. It's good to have 24 hours to think about it. He got his teeth kicked in, but he fought. I think everyone got their teeth kicked in this week. He shot +8, but he fought. I was happy with the fight. There's a multitude of things that could have went better, but I think pretty much everyone is saying that this week besides JJ Spaun. T23. I really wanted a T18 or better for it to be the best U.S. Open since Chambers Bay. It should have been.
Yeah.
100% should have been. But at the end of the day, we look on Data Golf and we get a little bit of a green box in a US Open, and that's more progress for Jordan, I would say. You know, hasn't had a green box in a US Open since 21, and lo and behold, his best good year is 21. It looks like 25, the year we're currently in, is going to be his best year, numbers wise, statistically since 21, and it's kind of good to see the play matching up this year, a little bit coinciding with 2021.
Yeah. It's the floor is certainly higher. We've touched on that quite a few times. Kind of as this season's gone along, we're just sort of waiting to kind of tap into the ceiling and tap into that potential. Um, we had a taste of it Saturday. Wasn't like really in the tournament, but one of those rounds you come into the day. Well, first off Thursday, um, played a real nice round. Even par. It's a great start. Could have been one or two better as well. Again, the putter inside 10 feet was an issue. I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit more here as we kind of go along. But nice start Thursday, lost the swing Friday. Um, Gutted out of 75, which, given how tough it played, was actually just slightly below field average. So enough to make the cut. And then Saturday was a gut punch on 15. Played really nicely. Started with a bogey at one, I believe. Or was it two?
Two.
Did not play two very well this week. Tough hole for 360, but regardless. Bogey at two and then ripped off three birdies in the next 12 holes or so. And you're thinking, man, if we can just get this to the house at three over, that would have been where McIntyre started his final day. 15, tough bounce into the rough, hack it up, not the great wedge shot, and then obviously the four putt from 33 feet. Uh, was not ideal. Follow that with a bogey on 16. Nice bounce back on 17. But at that point, kind of the damage had been done. And then even Sunday, like flushed it, missed some nice birdie looks. A little unlucky with trying to think of the bogeys on Sunday. 2 and 10 just shouldn't be bogeys. 75 yards middle of the fairway on two. I get it's a tough pin and probably missed his spot on the approach by
2 yards.
5 feet, and then missed his spot on the approach by on the chip by half an inch. Um, but that's part of it. And then 10 was just a pathetic putt from a whopping 45 inches. Missed a putt on five, missed a good look on six. Um, but it was encouraging that there were a lot of quality birdie looks, missed a great look on 13. And I think what was kind of disappointing was to finish bogey when you're standing at on the tee at +6, which would have been um what did that finish? That might have finished T12, I think. So you're standing on
His
the tee
best
on
US
seven,
Open since Chambers,
standing
it
on the
would
tee
have
at
been.
T12 on 17, birdie opportunity, and you play for four after the tee shot and then make a five, and then 18 was a respectable five, I guess. Obviously not a great tee ball, but hack it out, hit an approach that misses that ridge by a yard or two and hit a great putt, but didn't go. Just sort of a tough finish to 2 rounds, but I think it ultimately it sort of coincides and similar to not Colonial, Memorial. It's like it's close. Like there's some more signs of really sort of jumping into the tournament. You think if he closed out that round on Saturday better, even if it was just one under, he'd be kind of entering that final round in the last 7 or 8 pairings. And that's a huge step in the right direction, given kind of where he's been the past few years. And then, close it out on Sunday and you're looking at a top 10 for sure. So good things are coming, or good things occurred this week. There's more being in the mix. Like he's knocking on the door of really being in the mix. I think Memorial, obviously he was in the mix and then sort of out of the mix because Scheffler booted pretty much everybody out of the mix and the bogey finish didn't help. But um, definitely some good in terms of where he's getting himself into golf tournaments. And then obviously the approach play was fantastic this week. I believe that's now 3 straight positive weeks. And this week is, uh, we had looked at this before. This was his best approach week in terms of playing 4 rounds since 2017. So, um, who knows how much that really means? But if he can continue to string together weeks where the approach play is like this, there's going to be plenty more opportunities to knock down that door of really getting into contention and staying there and giving himself actually a chance to win and not just oh, hypothetically, like he could shoot a really good round and be there, but like nah, he'll start today with a chance And if he plays good to great golf, it just kind of wait and see.
Yeah, no, you summed everything up really well, Dan. Um, I don't know if I kind of want to touch on the star of the week first, which was I guess we'll start positive and then get into the negative. The approach play, you mentioned it, really fun. I mean, he was flushing
Yeah,
it,
it
and
is
that's
fun.
like, it's kind of been my bugaboo all year with him. It's like, man, the inconsistency and it's pissed off Sunday at Memorial because he let so many shots get away. And I had a theory that, he doesn't give a crap where he finishes. He just wants to give himself a chance to win there and got aggressive at some pins Sunday at Murfield Village, paid the price. The number was ugly. I'm like, maybe he was just going to pins. And, he comes back this week after a week off in Dallas working at Trinity Forest or wherever he was working with Cam
Mhm.
McCormick. And he flushed the shit out of the golf ball. Um, he had one bad day where he lost to the field and it was just a little bit worse than average. And that's kind of what, we've been harping on. If you can just keep your bad days near that, it's going to be really good because the good stuff is there. And man, did we see it this week. Second in the field, I think just behind Morikawa in approach.
Yeah.
Um, and he was a T23 pretty much on the back of that because the putter, I guess, which we'll get into now, Dan kind of already covered it, some bad strokes. Dan and I were talking. We always talk after these events wrap up. We text, and I told Dan there might not be a course on the planet that is worse short short range putters that are not good than Oakmont because every dang putt here from it seems 3 of 5, 6 feet has movement in it. Um, and we saw that, and he knew it, and the strokes weren't good. Um, yeah. You even look at the triple. The putt for double was like 4 feet slider down the hill. No, the putt for bogey was a 4 foot slider down the hill. Wasn't even shocked he missed that. Um, the putt on 10 for par on Sunday, slider down the hill, put a bad
Yeah.
stroke on it because the putts are just challenging and he knows it.
Yeah.
Um, it's just it's not shocking really to see him struggle from short range here. These putts are just so difficult and he's not good, simply
No.
put, from 3 to 6 feet. And we saw it, this week. I mean, I think I had a comment on my post yesterday that he missed, just a 24 missed putts inside 16 feet. I'm not fact checking that, but I'm going to go with what Mr. J in my comment section said of 24 missed putts inside of 16 feet. And it felt like that. It was not fun. It wasn't typical Jordan this year where he'd miss a shorty and, knock in the mid rangers. He wasn't making much of
Yeah.
anything this week. He made a couple. He made a nice par save on 17 on Saturday, which felt really good. But the putter it was ugly. It was again ugly in a major championship, and it just continues to bite at me that we're just throwing these events away because if he puts decently, he's probably in the mix on Sunday. I
Yeah.
mean, I think JJ Spaun beat it by 12 shots on the greens over the week, and that's just you can't really make that up anywhere. I mean, he tried on approach, but he still lost by 9 shots. And then the driver, I guess, which I kind of touched on earlier, just he lost it. I think it was
Yeah.
there to begin on Thursday, and then it disappeared on on the back nine, and it really carried into Friday and Saturday. And boy, did he pay the price. I mean, he was finding bunker lips, he was finding thick rough, and it's a pitch out. Really disappointing, just because it's been such a good club for him over 2 years, and there's probably not any course on tour this year that he'll play that's going to require it more to find fairways than Oakmont was, and just didn't come to play.
Yeah, that was, I think, probably the most disappointing slash surprising thing of the week. The driver being so inconsistent. Because we saw it on flashes on Sunday, and then obviously Thursday to start was, man, you hit it in the fairway. These greens are soft enough, or if you're hitting your irons really well, you can give yourself some looks. To your point, he made zilch this week. I don't think he made a putt from over 20 feet. Um, and a lot of that's you got to be pretty defensive. But I think just to, because the driver, I'm not too worried about. We'll see how well it goes at Travelers. It's one of my favorite kind of nuggets that you've shared with me is his driving at Cromwell. So maybe we'll save it for then. But like the driver has gained for the most part all year. Um, is it a tough week to have a bad week? Very much so, but it's not something I'm concerned about by any means. Um, the putting is tough because when you're not making up for the missing the few putts inside of 6 feet by holding something else, you're not going anywhere with it. Um, there's a lot is the downhill left to righters that were poor, leaving the face open, leaving them right, just not kind of finishing the stroke, and that's easy to do around Oakmont because they're so fast that if you do finish the stroke and pull it, I think a lot of it is mental in some sense too. And you think about the first bogey of the week at 11, downhill, 3.5, 4 feet, and jammed it through the break, right? Probably a good stroke, maybe just a little excited to just
Just
kind
like
of put one in the hole. Excited's probably not the right word, but like uh mentally charged up, ready to go, want to see this one go in and hit it through the break, you miss it, and you've got 4 feet coming back. And unfortunately, I think that probably wore on him slightly the rest of the week because these were some decels on these downhill left to righters and early walks from 5 feet, which is um, impressive in a not good way. Because that's instant off the face, you've missed. So, um, not good there. I think part of it too is you texted me before. It's like, man, I just hope his speed is good because he's gonna miss some of those. And I was like, well, it's usually pretty good in major championships, but he looked a little defensive this week. I think more than you saw. I mean, obviously Spaun putted the lights out, but I think there were a lot of guys at the top of the board whose speed was much better. And there was a greater confidence about getting it to that tap in 2 foot range, and giving it a chance to go in, feeling confident about the 3 footer coming back. And I think that was lacking a little bit from the Spieth camp. Um, and that in turn led to some missed putts from range that uh you would like to see one or two go down for the week. Um, so pretty disappointing on the greens. The three putts were cleaned up kind of by the end of the week, but the damage is done early, and then some of the short game shots were filthy and deserved a better. The up part of the up and down was really nice, and the down part was about the opposite end of the spectrum. So, um, won't have greens like this for a long time. I mean, the next stops on tour who knows if he plays the Deer, but Cromwell is certainly not going to be rolling at a 14 and a half with slopes like that. And then the Scottish and the British are notoriously slower. So uh, I don't think it spells doom and gloom for the rest of the season, but certainly some areas of things that I guess we've kind of seen all season and probably should have expected, but it doesn't mean it's not disappointing to see them kind of rear their ugly head in moments where you can start to smell a pretty good finish at a major championship.
there's certainly a trend of putting poorly at major championships where the greens at some of these venues tend to be a little bit tougher than some of the tour venues that um, I've picked up on over the last 5 years. But uh, that's kind of all I got. He's lost strokes putting in 3, 5, 7 of the last 8 now
That's
in the
fantastic.
majors.
And
So
it's usually the Masters that he putts decently at,
yeah, he would have
right?
had a weekend off at Augusta this year if it wasn't for the putter.
Without for the flat stick. Yeah. And so it's like, all right, I don't doubt that he feels decent about it. And the season has been better. But I think this week was kind of a reminder that I think the unfortunate truth, not necessarily from winning or being in serious contention, but I think he's still there's a lot of not good, a lot of bad habits that need to get kind of cleaned out. Um, and a lot of golf and practice that still needs to happen before it some of this other stuff becomes kind of second nature again and contention becomes more consistent. Because the top end talent is still there. Uh, as was evidenced by this week. I mean, second in approach at Oakmont, like he was flagging the golf ball. Um, or flagging shots, flushing the golf ball. Like it was the sound on some of these shots were fantastic. Draws, fades. Even the poles weren't like that bad, even though he dropped to his knees a few times on them, right? It was just like, all right, you missed your target 10 yards left. Like to a right flag that you're trying to fade something in. That's not going to hurt you anywhere. Might hurt you at Oakmont because you might have to putt over a few ridges and valleys, but and maybe at Cromwell it's a missed green, but then you're chipping out of a decent line in the rough. Like it's gonna be funny to watch the Travelers and feel like the course has no bite because compared to Oakmont, it has no teeth. Um, but if it's all then of course we go back to can this approach play maintain? And it doesn't have to be second every week, but positive, good to great values in that area are ultimately what's going to decide whether or not he gets into contention, maybe even lifts a trophy, and he gets to Bethpage at the end of the season, which Spaun taking a spot probably deserved one, but it certainly makes that race tighten up as we kind of get down to the last 2 months before that begins to get decided.
Yeah, no, I getting questions about that as soon as Spawn was freaking lifting the trophy last night. Like, does this isn't good for Jordan? Of course, it's not good for Jordan. I kind of wanted to wait till this morning to see some updated numbers. Non-biasly, I still think Jordan's on the team, but it's definitely not as, easy or as predictable as it might have been sitting here a week ago. Because Spawn, as you said, Dan, he takes a spot. He's going to be in on points. So, um, I don't know if that's good or bad if he's in on points because it's like he's automatic, so it's one less captain's pick that Jordan's got to worry about. But I mean, guys like Henley, Ben Griffin, Patrick Cantlay, those are all dudes that are not currently in on points, so those are probably guys you're
Well,
thinking.
Cantlay, I mean, we might as well get into it a little bit. Cantlay's interesting because he's kind of quiet in general, and he's been quiet this year. Like, it'll be interesting to see how Keegan sorts through determining who goes where on his team. I can't imagine Cantlay's not there, but what has he done this season?
He's had some higher end finishes. T4 at the Truist, T5 at Genesis at Torrey Pines, T5 American Express. Similar to Spieth, kind of.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit more high end stuff, but
Yeah,
he's been good, not
that's
great.
fair. I guess he just hasn't been the normal Cantlay. I think is part. Usually he's really kind of deep into contention or has a win or you feel pretty confident about him playing well at some of these places. Um, but yeah, the Ryder Cup's going to be fascinating. It's a big 2 months, and Spieth's trending the right way for sure. Um, but what's not? I mean, Burns was dead in the water until he should have won the Canadian and needed to shoot 72 to win the US Open on Sunday. Like, and get a spot. And he's probably pretty close to on the team at this point, Burns, but
He'd be on my team right now, that's for sure.
yeah. I mean, well, but he's a kind of guy who can lose it pretty quick, right? Like he could miss three straight cuts and you'd be like, well, you just get hot for 2 weeks in June. Um, or he rips off three more top fives the rest of the year, and you're kind of like, well, okay, yeah, that guy's on the team. So it does get interesting. And I think the European team keeps sort of solidifying itself more and more. Like McIntyre will be there for sure. Uh, I'm sure they hope Ludwig starts to play some better golf. Hovland seems to grind it out when he needs to. Rahm and McIlroy are sort of buoys. They never quite disappear from some of these big events. Um,
Fleetwood, Hatton.
Fleetwood, Hatton, yeah. Um, Fleetwood's been awesome this year. Not his best week this week, but just feels like the American teams, there's more up for grabs and it's more unsettled. Um, and so it's a good time to go play some really good golf this next 2 months.
Heck
Kind of see
yeah.
where it goes.
Yeah, you're talking about Jordan. I think Jordan's still got a monkey on his back. I think we are probably more confident right now of him being on the team than he is, which is a good thing. I'd rather it be that way than the other way around, which is good. He's hungry. Uh, saw it on the, I mean, I didn't see it. I still gotta find the video, but he was apparently was yelling at his putter on the 72nd hole, his 72nd hole of the US Open after missing another one, which was a fitting end of the week. It was a fitting hole to end the week because he missed the fairway, which fitting for the week. Hit a pretty good approach shot to 15 feet to
Yeah.
give him a chance to save par, and then it hit a lip, miss, bogey, and a scream at the putter, which summed up the +8. +8 being T23 is just phenomenal. I love
Yeah.
that.
It's
We don't get that
fantastic.
often. Um, it's so cool too. You like look at the leaderboard and it's like it goes from like T23 to T21 and it's like just inching because it's so much spread because you got some dudes over the weekend who just shot very high numbers.
Yeah.
And then you got +7's T19, +8 was T23. Uh, and I just enjoy that. It's a
Well, we
shame we don't
probably
get it more often, but
we probably saw everything from 67 to like 80, 82 over the weekend, like that range of 15 shot differential from guys that made the cut is sick.
yeah. Shout out to Cam Davis for the 82.
Yeah, that's impressive right there.
He's not the only one, at least during the week. I mean, there were some of these qualifiers were shooting quite the numbers.
Yeah, we had a 30 over through 2 days.
Oh yeah. No. No. I mean, that guy might still be out there playing. You mentioned you mentioned how soft it was. I think it was, I don't know if it was Michael Kim, Twitter sensation, or someone else that said if it wasn't wet and if it would have been firm all week, they think the winning score would have been like +5
Yeah, I
or
think
something
yeah,
like that. And there
I
was like
saw
no
+6.
wind. There was like no wind like all week. I mean, there were some gusts, but there was nothing like when we get to Shinnecock next year for the US Open, that'll be fun as well. They always get
Yeah,
wind because they're on the water. Like imagine this place if it stayed firm and there was wind. I mean, good Lord.
brutal. Yeah, it makes me. I mean, shoot, I'm already excited for Shinnecock next
Yeah.
year. That's gonna
Yeah.
blow because that'll help dry it out too, as long as some storms stay away. Um, yeah, I mean, it was a really good U.S. Open, really, really good U.S. Open. Uh, cool that there wasn't like a mega name in the picture, really. Like, I guess Hovland's a big name, but not the big three or big
Yeah.
four, I guess I'd say. Um, and I appreciated that. And it's cool to see a guy like Spaun win. Like not every, I will say the US Open recent winners have been Like it's an interesting list. Spaun, not Bryson, Clark, who's struggled mightily since. And I know he's had some other good finishes and some other big wins, but kind of start to look at it as like, well, maybe Wyndham Clark was kind of a not a fluke, but just that was his great season.
Big
Um,
blow ups as well for him.
yeah, big time. Uh, who was there and who won in 20?
Fitzpatrick
Clark
was
was
before.
23, 22 Fitzpatrick. He hasn't done a whole lot since that major. 21
Spieth.
was
Rom.
Rom. Yeah, okay. So then you get to the Rom, Bryson. Forgot who 19 was. Rom, Bryson, Woodland,
Woodland.
Kepka,
Kepka.
DJ, Spieth stretch, which is some mega names there. But yeah, it's gonna be cool to look back on this in 20 years and be like, oh yeah, the JJ Spawn major. Um, so really fun week. Some good golf played from Spieth camp, some infuriating golf played, but um overall more progress, I think. I think you have to walk away from the week
Yeah.
being like, oh, T23 at a US Open is not a reason to be upset, especially when you think it really probably should have been quite a few shots better.
Yeah.
Um,
No,
which
he.
a nice way to think about it.
I was looking when I mean, just the closing stretches of both weekend days. He played the last four holes both days in a combined five over. And you're just thinking to yourself, you play those in even, you're at +3, and you're T4 to well, T5 because you had your name there, and like it's not that not far-fetched. I mean, I guess everyone at the US Open can probably make that case, but when you're second in approach, it feels like you have more of a case than most dudes just because you're flushing the golf ball. It was another week of kind of what we've been seeing all year. It's close. It's good. It's not great. He's bleeding a stroke here, bleeding a stroke there. You're
Yeah.
missing a 4-footer. It's just every stroke matters. I know he lost by 9, but for just better placement purposes and even Memorial, thinking back to that Saturday where he bled a couple down the stretch, it's like it's close. It's kind of fun because the floor is there. He's always going to do something pretty well pretty well going into one week. He's shown, he can do everything well, which is fun. And it's got
Yeah.
some, and like we didn't expect a whole lot this week. None of us three on the preview podcast were, I guess, bullish. I think, Dan, you were a little optimistic with the course fit just because you're thinking the driving would play well here, and he didn't even drive it freaking
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And still
I
pulled
think
it out of his rear.
this was kind of what I was hoping for slash expecting, but not the way I thought he might
Yeah.
do it.
He can do it in
Um,
different ways, which is fun.
right. Well, I think that's true too. Like the other couple things that are encouraging, especially as we head into some of these other fences. One, he got like the approach play got up for a major. And I know that that's kind of sad because then, well, the putter didn't and the driver didn't. But, you know, you can put the lights out and you're going to win. You have to get a little bit lucky to win that major. Like Spawn had to have a few guys come back to him. If you flush your irons, you're going to be there a lot. You just are. And it translates. It translates to other golf courses. But the fact that he got those in gear for a major championship is exciting. And kind of under that umbrella, the wedge play's been a lot better recently. I don't know if you have sort of numbers over the past month or whatever it's been, but because I guess it wasn't that great before Memorial. Um, but something since Memorial and the US Open here has kind of clicked. I don't have it in front of me, but there are a few par saves this week from some wedge shots, quite a few darts, kind of birdie looks from wedge shots that were just played properly, and that plays at the Travelers. Like that's how you score in tournaments and championships. So um, I think that's also very encouraging. Because it's one thing to just hit your long irons really well, and at a place as demanding as like Ranch, you can work yourself to a solo four, but uh, you kind of need those wedge shots to help buoy you to 10, 11, 12 under at Portrush later this year. Hopefully the winner's not that low. I guess that wouldn't be too bad, but saving shots in that way was cool. Short game was pretty solid this week. Some of it's kind of tough because you get a bad lie at greenside, you're not doing a whole lot with it anyway. Um, but some of the other sort of 50-yard pitches, we had a hole out finally on Saturday. That was fun.
Big
Kind
hole
of
out.
flipped that nine. That was a huge shot Saturday because it
Yeah.
sort of turned around the whole thing. It's like, all right, he's even par and didn't find the hazard on nine, but had to punch it out just greenside, and you're thinking, oh, this could be a bogey, and you're one over through the nine. That's not bad, but turns that into a birdie and uh, stacks up another birdie at the 12th, and like, oh, things are starting to work that way. So just some encouraging things. And I come back to sometimes that like when it stings because it feels so poor. It also stings because it's dropping from, you know, top 10 contention to top 25 versus if he's already T56 and he's missing a 4-footer, it's like, all right, like whatever. And in some sense, right? The pain comes because there's the encouragement. Um, or pain, the sting, whatever you want to call it. The disappointment feels more prevalent because there's something there. Um, and we'll see. I'd consider this trending as we go towards Portrush. I think at the beginning of the year that was probably the right tournament to circle as like a let's see if we can get in gear by Portrush. Um, and these last 2 weeks have made me feel a lot better about kind of getting there to Portrush and being like, yeah, this is one of the 10 guys, 15 guys, however many guys it might be that could actually win the golf tournament or really, really be there. And I think that's pretty awesome
Yeah, no, that's
considering 2024.
yeah, no, it's well summed up. Um, didn't really have a whole lot of expectations coming into this year, and as we start to enter, I guess the summer months, I'm kind of looking at my phone here. I'm seeing, some 90 where, the temperature is, and it's getting hot. Got the summer coming up, travelers, and south winds in the veer, the playoffs, the opens stretch. Feel like we're in the back half, obviously, of the year, and there's a couple events he loves still to play, and who knows? I mean, he's not necessarily playing with house money because we know we're trying to make that Ryder Cup team, but I don't feel that he feels he's too stressed. Which is probably a good attitude to have. I don't think he feels he needs to win, although I really want to win. It'd be really fun. But I think like there's no reason we shouldn't have deep contention, at least once the rest of the year. I think we're getting closer to it. Kind of tasted it Saturday at Memorial, but um, yeah, just more overall pretty decently good signs this week, I would say.
Yeah. A lot of that contention stuff is just getting used to it again,
Yeah.
getting used to being there, feeling it, and trusting what you've got. Because he hasn't been in it since, or I guess sort of this year, but like I, I think he genuinely believes in his stuff now a little bit more. And it's gonna be different than what it was in 15 through 17. Like he's just a different player and a different dude. Um, but using that or utilizing that or embracing that difference, I think is what's gonna make him maximize his talent. Because he's not gonna be 17 Spieth again, but there's a version of 25 Spieth and 26 Spieth as we tap into that 15-year outlook. That could be really, really, really good. So a lot of fun this week. I don't think we have anything too massive on the triple double update either. I think
We have a new
Bob
leader. You have a new
jumped back
leader.
into the lead with
Yep.
his Hovland, but um, and I gained maybe a little bit, a few hundred grand on you, but tough week for Bryson. $0 out of him is not ideal. So,
No, it's not ideal.
but it was kind of a use him or lose him. I'm not sure. I was never gonna play him at Portrush, so um, I don't know. And Rom played well, at least on Sunday. I might be biting myself, kicking myself a little bit, not playing him at having him to play at Portrush. But do you still have him?
No, I used him at the Masters. We're all out of ROMs.
I I think he'll be ready for Portrush in a way that's like, oh shoot, John Rahm's here to win a major. Um, but we'll see. It's only a month away, which is crazy.
Yes. No, it is only a month away. I'm very excited.
Me too.
Probably my favorite event. But
I
I
agree.
always go
I
back
think
and
it's
forth between that and the Masters, but having been to one at
yeah,
Hoylake
Liverpool.
and Birkdale next year, which is, well, maybe on the
Yeah.
calendar, looking ahead. It's awesome over there, and Jordan loves it. It helps when your favorite player just, can have nothing and go over there and still play well. Um, it's funny, like I think as Spieth fans, we always say not the US Open, but the Masters and the Open are our favorites. Like if he played well, if he was a three-time, PGA champ like Koepka, I think I like the PGA a little bit more too. But when your favorite player,
Yeah.
contends at a couple tournaments, it's easier to like. But
Right.
yeah,
I
yeah,
certainly became a much bigger fan of the Heritage after
yeah,
22.
yeah. No, it's interesting to think where he's one that, I like a little bit more now, and some places I don't like. We always crap on the players because he hasn't won that. We've begun to, as of late, given the players a little bit more respect. It's a fun event,
Yeah.
but
I think the theme song is just fantastic.
yeah.
You've got a good
Well, we got
theme
a great
song
one
for
coming
him.
up in a month.
Yeah, true.
Um,
I will say the US Open's got a good theme, but I remember when they also used it for the Open and they gave it a little kind of bagpipe twang. And it was, oh man. I have it as my saved videos on YouTube. Sometimes I'll just go back and listen to that. But the new RNA Open theme song is also quite good. Gets the juices going at 3:30 in the morning.
oh, and the
Um,
the commercials are just phenomenal when they do it with the guy with the English accent or the Scottish accent when they do the NBC commercials. Like they had one for during US Open this week, and they got the dude talking in the Scottish English. I guess they're in
oh
Northern
yeah,
Ireland this year. It's phenomenal. It's a
it's the
phenomenal
best.
touch.
It really is the best. It's a great cat. I think it's good that it's the last major of the year.
Yeah, I agree.
Like I think it's probably, well, I don't know. The Masters is just so majestic, but the Open feels just like it just feels so proper.
It's golf in its truest form, man.
Yeah. Just feels proper.
Yes, thank you for that.
Um,
It does.
man. So some good golf still left this year.
Yeah.
Obviously, trip to uh I'm blanking on what I was gonna say. Regardless, is Bob going to Cromwell this week?
Yes.
Chill.
3 in a row for the podcast on ground, but we should
Yeah,
get
that's
him for the recap a week from today because that's in his backyard. So,
yeah, that's fantastic. He's gonna be exhausted by the end of next week,
yeah.
but
Well, good
hopefully,
news is Cromwell's the shortest course on tour, so you would think it'd be less
uh,
walking in theory.
true. And it is supposed to be. We'll see how I'm. I'm not like excited for it, but Spieth is playing decent, so I'm kind of excited for it. Like I
The signature event. It's big for triple double too.
no, it's a huge. Well, yeah, I need it bad, and I also I'm gonna say Spieth needs it bad, but like I think it's a good opportunity to get a little more like I don't know if momentum's the right word, but um I guess momentum would work, but also some room for error down the stretch. Like I don't know, go thrust yourself into the picture a little bit more, you know?
Or there will be no error.
True. Yeah, or
I
no
look at the
error.
courses, Dan, and it's like I don't hate any of them for him, really. I mean, I
No,
obviously hated Oakmont, but
yeah. Well, and the other thing too is like he's putted Travelers well.
that's
And
nice.
you don't have to get I'm not gonna take your fun
No,
Travelers
you're
tidbit.
fine taking my fun. It's just do we save the fun?
Yeah, do we save it? Yeah, I think we do save it. Um, yeah, we'll save it. But you hit the ball like that, like you did this past week, can compete anywhere. And if he putts the way he has there before, and I think he'll putt a lot better this week.
I think it'll be the point of emphasis tomorrow and Wednesday.
Yeah. Do you think he was out there today?
No.
Probably not. Which I
Be
think
cool
is
if he was,
reasonable.
but I doubt
You got
it.
to take a day off after a US Open, I think.
I think
Sure,
Ricky
grow it.
was out there today.
No. Well, I guess that's not too surprising. Fowler had the week off
JT
last
was
week.
out there per the Traveler's Instagram. Makes
Oh,
sense.
well, he had the weekend off. That's funny. Thomas is funny, man. What a pathetic showing at Oakmont. But it's not surprising. That dude's game just does not travel. Like I'm not sure he'd be that great at Bethpage, which is kind of crazy though, because he'll probably hit more fairways just because he actually kind of gives a damn about being an American, like playing for a team. Um, but we'll see. We don't have to get into Thomas to wrap up this US Open pod. Um, I don't have really anything else. Fun
No.
week.
Yeah.
Excited to keep it rolling this summer. So
Fun week. Get Bob back tomorrow for the
yeah, hear what he has to say
preview
about it.
and recap of the on-site. Doesn't seem like it was the best course for spectators, but he'll get into that probably. Um,
Yeah.
it's tough with the church pew bunkers, I can imagine, because they're so long. It's like they're not going to have fans walking through them.
Well, yeah,
So
it takes off a couple sides
grass,
the view, and he was saying he couldn't even watch 14 really.
yeah.
Um, so
But until he gets back, thank you guys for listening. Another major in the books. One more this year, and back we're in action this week. So
yeah,
hopefully be a good week at the Travelers, and we'll talk to you guys then.
yeah. See you soon.
Take
Peace.
care.